Hello guys, so now we shall be discussing another important topic on commissural fibers. Okay, so what are these commissural fibers? Commissural fibers, see, you have got right cerebral hemisphere, you have got left cerebral hemisphere. Let us say this is your right cerebral hemisphere, this is your left cerebral hemisphere. Both of them are attached to each other. Now, how are both attached to each other? There should be some fibers in between both of them that are attaching to both the cerebral hemispheres and keeping both the cerebral hemispheres together, right? So these fibers which are responsible for the attachment of two cerebral hemispheres, these are called as commissural fibers. Not only that, functionally also it is very important. For example, if these commissural fibers are simply nothing but connections in between two cerebral hemispheres, that's it. Okay, if I'm establishing some wires connecting from right to left, okay, so these are called commissural fibers. Why? Because the right side has to know what the left is doing, the left side has to know what the right is doing. If these commissural fibers are cut down, then the right hemisphere will act differently and the left hemisphere will act differently. Okay, so in a simple picture, if I have to tell you, let us say this is one cerebral hemisphere, this is another cerebral hemisphere. Okay, so connecting both the cerebral hemispheres, these fibers are called as commissural fibers, right? So remember one thing, cerebral hemisphere I did not tell cerebellar hemisphere, I told cerebral hemisphere. Remember one thing, that in for example, if the right cerebral hemisphere is responsible for the actions on the left side, right? It means if my right cerebral hemisphere is damaged, then my left hand and left leg doesn't work, it is paralyzed. If the left cerebral hemisphere is not working, then then the actions of the right hand and the right leg are not working. Why is this happening? Because whatever neurons are present within the right hemisphere, these neurons, as they are descending down, they cross to the opposite side and supply the left hand and left leg. The neurons on the left side, as they are descending down into the spinal cord, right? So in this process, somewhere near the midbrain medulla, what will happen is that they decussate. This is called decussation. Crossing is called as decussation. They cross or decussate to the opposite side and supply to your right hand and right leg. That is the reason why left-sided problems will have problems onto the right side, and if there is any lesion on the right side, let us say a patient is having high blood pressure and there is rupture of an artery, aneurysm of a, let us say aneurysm of one artery located in the subarachnoid space. So aneurysm ho gaya and finally there might be a rupture. So what has happened? The effects will be shown on the right side. And in the same way, there is aneurysm and rupture on the left side, the effects will be shown onto the right side. So this is ipsilateral or contralateral, it is contralateral. Okay. Then second important point I want to make it clear is that cerebellum is also having two hemispheres. One is called as right cerebellar hemisphere, left cerebellar hemisphere. Okay. If right cerebellar hemisphere is damaged, then the effects, then there will be loss of posture and balance on one side only. If right is damaged, only on the right side I will have loss of posture and balance. If left is damaged, then I will have problem with the left only. Why? Because the tracts in the right cerebral hemisphere, they don't cross, they are going to the right only. Tracts originating on the left side, they be on the left side only, they don't cross. That is the reason why in cerebral hemispheres, the lesions are contralateral. Contralateral means opposite side. And in cerebellar hemispheres, the lesions are ipsilateral. Ipsilateral means same side lesions. Okay, so this is the basic difference I want you to know. Now what will happen if these, let us say these fibers are called as commissural fibers. Okay, what will happen if these commissural fibers are cut down? What will happen is that, let us say for example, see, this is the shirt button, right? Now I wanted to button my shirt. If I wanted to button my shirt, obviously with a single hand you can do, but usually we what do? Usually to button up fast, you use both the hands, right? Now you know your left hand. What is your left hand doing? Is your left hand pushing the button into the hole? No. Your left hand is trying to make the hole, right? Trying to make the hole as large as possible so that the right side, the button will very easily fit into this. And the right side, what is the aim of the right hand? The aim of the right hand is that I have to put this button into the hole. You see, both of them are working in coordination with each other, right? For example, you know why they are working in coordination with each other? It is because of those commissural fibers. The right is telling to the left through these commissural fibers, and the left is passing signals to the right through these commissural fibers. If it is cut down, what will happen is that my left hand and right hand won't button up. So let us say my left hand I am thinking to button up, automatically my right hand will remove the buttons. Okay, I can't even tie the shoelace also. Okay, because there also you need coordination. Okay, so see now I am able to close my hands, right? For example, let us say I take my mobile, I take the charger. Now both the cerebral hemispheres, they both are working together in association with each other. I'll put the charger the charger into the socket, right? Socket of my phone. I'll plug the charger into the phone, right? You see this coordination, whatever is happening. Now if I have commissural fibers cut out, right, then what will happen? My left hand and the right hand works completely different. Okay, so this is the basic thing. This is called as split brain syndrome. Your brain is split into two halves and they both work differently. Okay, so that is what is called a split brain syndrome. So that is what happens when the commissural fibers are cut down. Now we shall see what are the types of commissural fibers. We shall also see what is the structure of these commissural fibers, what are the names and all. Okay, so first the topic of discussion, let me write it down. It is commissural fibers. Now, when it comes to the commissural fibers, what did I tell you? How many types of commissural fibers you have got? You have got 3 different types of commissural fibers. The first commissural fiber is nothing but your corpus callosum. Corpus callosum. The second commissural fiber over here is called as anterior commissure. Anterior commissure. The third type of commissural fibers over here is called as commissure of fornix. Commissure of fornix. What is the other name for commissure of fornix? Hippocampal commissure. Hippocampal commissure. Okay, so what are the 3 different types we have got? One is called as corpus callosum. I'll show the pictures of each and everything. I hope all of you know what is corpus callosum, right? I'll draw a picture. If you know that picture already, then fast forward the video. If this is the first video which you are watching, I want you to follow the entire video. Next is commissure of the fornix, or we also call it as a hippocampal commissure. Now what do you mean by corpus callosum? Now before I tell what is corpus callosum, you have to know one very important thing. Let us say this is your cerebral hemisphere. Now in the cerebral hemisphere, this is right cerebellar hemisphere, this is left cerebellar hemisphere. Now both the cerebral hemispheres are attached to each other. Now this surface which you can see is called as the superolateral surface of cerebral hemisphere. The surfaces I have talked in my first lectures. Okay, so there you will find the surfaces of cerebral hemispheres. But still I am telling you that this is your right cerebral hemisphere, this is your left cerebral hemisphere, this is superolateral surface, this is superolateral surface. So you can see what you can see, superolateral surface. Then now when I am dividing the right and left like this, I am dividing both of them now. Now when I divided the right from the left, you see this surface which you cannot see, I have to show it to you like this, right? So these surfaces are facing each other. So this surface is called as a medial surface. Now I will draw the structure of medial surface, because the first important fiber I told you is corpus callosum. Corpus callosum you can only visualize on the medial surface. So on the medial surface you see this structure, this is called as your corpus callosum. Okay, so let us look at the structures of the medial side. So this is the medial surface. Now in this medial surface, here if you see carefully, you see this structure which I am drawing right now is nothing but called as your corpus callosum, right? Again I am telling you, if you know this picture where I will be drawing about thalamus, hypothalamus and all of these things, tuber cinerea, mammillaries and all of these things, if you already have attended my previous lectures, then definitely you might have known this picture. So fast forward the video. If you are watching this commissural fibers for the first time, right, if you don't know this picture, then watch the video completely. So this structure is called corpus callosum. Now in this corpus callosum, you have got few important structures. See, you see a red color structure here and you see a green color structure, right? So this red color structure over here is called as genu of corpus callosum. Okay, so this red color structure over here is called as GENU, genu of corpus callosum. And next important thing is this structure, green one, this is called as a splenium of corpus callosum. Splenium of corpus callosum. Okay. Next, the remaining part, whatever you can see over here, this is called as a body of corpus callosum. Okay. So this remaining part over here is called as a body of corpus callosum. Now, attaching the two ends of the corpus callosum over here, you have got this structure. You see, this structure whatever is there here is called as a fornix. I will teach you where is this fornix exactly located. Okay, so this structure over here is nothing but called as your fornix. This is called as your fornix of corpus callosum. Now in between this corpus callosum over here, you can see another important structure. You see these lines which I am drawing right now, right? So these lines are nothing but, look here, these lines are nothing but called as your septum pellucidum. Okay, so what are these lines over here? This is nothing but called as septum pellucidum. Okay, so this is nothing but called as your septum pellucidum. So this is your body, right? Between the body and between the fornix, you have got this structure called as septum pellucidum. Okay, now just concentrate on the genu over here. Just beneath this genu, you have got a structure that is hanging down, a small structure that is hanging down beneath the genu. This is called as the rostrum. Okay, so what is this structure specifically called as? This structure over here is called as your rostrum. Okay, now beneath your rostrum, just beneath your rostrum, this particular structure which I am drawing right now, this is what is called as your anterior commissure. So here I have told you commissure fibers. I told you one is corpus callosum and next is anterior commissure. So this is the anterior commissure. So where is anterior commissure located? Above to the anterior commissure is located on the medial side, and above to the anterior commissure you have got rostrum. Next, down here if you come, you see this green color line which I am drawing down here, right? So this green color line is nothing but called as linea terminalis. Okay, so this green color line over here is nothing but called as linea terminalis. Okay, this is your linea terminalis. Now down over here, attached to your linea terminalis, you see this structure here, right? So this structure which is attached to this linea terminalis is nothing but called as your optic chiasma. Okay, I hope all of you know what is optic chiasma, right? So this structure over here is called as your optic chiasma. Okay, so this is your optic chiasma. Now after the optic chiasma, let me rub out a little part over here. So after this optic chiasma, coming from the optic chiasma, you see a black color structure. Okay, let me change the color. Yeah, you see this particular structure which is hanging out of optic chiasma. This is what is called as optic tract. Okay, coming out of optic chiasma, this particular structure which you can see over here is called as your optic tract. This is called as your optic tract. Now after this optic tract, you see two important bodies over here. This is very important. See, you see one structure like this, another structure in this way. So this structure which you can see over here is nothing but called as your tuber cinereum. Okay, so this particular structure over here is called as your tuber cinereum. Okay, now what is happening? The tuber cinereum is joining together to form a conical projection, a cone like projection. This cone like projection is nothing but called as, what is this called as? This is called as medial eminence. This cone like projection is nothing but called as your medial eminence. This cone-like projection is called as medial eminence. Now, all the way from this medial eminence, you see a stalk that is hanging down all the way, right? So, this stalk is attached to a pituitary gland like this. This stalk is also attached to another pituitary gland in this way. So, this stalk over here which I have drawn is called as pituitary stalk. This stalk over here is called as pituitary stalk. And attached to this pituitary stalk, what is this? This is called as pituitary gland. This is what is called as your pituitary gland. Okay. Now, behind the tuber cinereum, there is an other important structure like this. So, this structure that is located behind the tuber cinereum is what is called as your mammillary bodies. Okay. What is this structure? This structure over here is called as your mammillary bodies. So, this is something you have to just memorize, guys. Mammillary bodies. Why are you calling it as bodies? Because it is only one here. Then why are you calling it as bodies? This is a picture from the medial side, right? Actually, you have got two mammillary bodies, one on the right, one on the left. So, this is a picture from the side. That is why you can see only one body. Next important thing is that just behind this mammillary body, you have got a structure in this way. Okay. So, what is this structure? This structure over here is transversed by many gaps. You see these gaps like this. What are these gaps called as? These gaps over here is called as posterior perforated substance. Okay. So, these gaps over here is called as your posterior perforated substance. This is called as a posterior perforated substance. Now, it is behind the posterior perforated substance. It is just behind the posterior perforated substance. You have got your midbrain in this way. You see, this is your midbrain that is located. Okay, so where is your midbrain located? Your midbrain is located behind the posterior perforated substance. So, this is the place where your midbrain is located. Okay, right. So, let me do a little bit of shading in this part, so that I have to show you one very important structure over here. So, this is your midbrain. Now, in the center of your midbrain, I am putting a duct like this. You see this duct, right? Where is this duct present? This duct is present in the center of your midbrain. So, this duct over here is nothing but called as your central cerebral aqueduct or aqueduct of Sylvius. Cerebral aqueduct or aqueduct of Sylvius. Clear all of you? Now, next important thing is that back here you have got a structure. This structure over here is called as your pineal gland. What is this structure over here? This is called as your pineal gland. So, you see this is called as your pineal gland. Okay. Now, in front of the pineal gland, you got this structure over here in front of the pineal gland. Obviously, pituitary gland is having such structure that you called as pituitary stalk. So, pineal gland is also having such structure and you should call it as pineal stalk. So, this is called as pineal stalk. Now, this pineal stalk over here is dividing into two laminae. You see, this lamina which is going on to the top is called superior laminae, and this lamina which comes down is called as inferior laminae. Now, coming to the superior laminae, you see superior laminae comes anteriorly forward and again it goes back and again it comes anteriorly forward and goes and attaches like this. Okay, but whereas inferior laminae will come straight away and attach like this. So, one is called superior laminae, another one is called as inferior laminae. How is superior laminae going? Anteriorly forward, posteriorly backward, again anteriorly forward and going and attaching there. And inferior laminae is not showing anything, there is just a convexity that comes and attaches down. Exactly here, you have got another important commissure, and this commissure over here is called as habenular commissure. This is called as habenular commissure. So, this commissure over here is called as habenular commissure. And next down here also you have got another commissure like this. You see, So this commissure which is located down, this is called as posterior commissure. Okay, so this commissure over here is called as your posterior commissure. Posterior commissure, and this is called as cerebral aqueduct. Cerebral aqueduct, right? Now all of you can see a cavity over here, guys. Can you very easily figure out an open cavity here, right? You see this cavity like this. Okay, let me put it up till here. You see this cavity? This cavity which I am drawing it with the green, which I am drawing it with the yellow, which I am shading it with the yellow. You see this cavity? This cavity is nothing but called as cavity of diencephalon. So this is what is called as your diencephalon or cavity of the third ventricle. So this is your cavity of the third ventricle. Okay, so this is your cavity of your third ventricle. Now what I am doing is that I will divide this third ventricle. You see, now I will divide this third ventricle into two halves like this. Okay, so when I divide the third ventricle into two halves with the help of this sulcus over here is called as hypothalamic sulcus. What is the name of this sulcus? See, this particular sulcus over here is called as your hypothalamic sulcus. This is called as your hypothalamic sulcus. So with the help of this hypothalamic sulcus, I am dividing the cavity of the third ventricle into two halves, right? So the upper one over here, the upper one is called as thalamus. Okay, the upper one is called as thalamus, and below the thalamus you have got hypothalamus. So the lower one is called as hypothalamus. The upper one is called as thalamus and the lower one is called as hypothalamus. So thalamus and hypothalamus are divided. Where are they located? They are located in the third ventricle. Where are they exactly located? They are also located, you can also tell it as they are located in the diencephalon. What is the cavity in the diencephalon? The cavity in the diencephalon is called as the third ventricle, right? So what is the sulcus that is dividing the third ventricle, the thalamus from the hypothalamus? That is the hypothalamic sulcus, right? Now all of you just concentrate here. This is your cerebral aqueduct. Above the duct, whatever you can see there, right? Above the duct, you see this part? Above the duct, this part of the midbrain that is located above the duct is what is called as the tegment of the midbrain. Tegmentum of midbrain. Tegmentum of the midbrain. Next, what is this part then specifically called? See, this part, where is this part located? This part which I am highlighting now, this part is located in the tegmentum of midbrain only, but it is located below what? You see, it is directly located below the thalamus. So can I call this part as the subthalamic tegmentum of the midbrain? Yeah, so this part over here is called as the subthalamic tegmentum of the midbrain. So this part over here is called as a subthalamic tegmentum of the midbrain. Now, what is the important thing you need to know? What is the important thing you need to know is that you see, can you very easily figure out, right? Can you very easily figure out that a triangular shaped opening is there here, right, between the superior lamina and inferior laminae? This triangular shaped opening that is located between the superior and inferior laminae is called as pineal recess. So this is called as pineal recess. Now above the pineal recess, if you see this depression over here above the pineal recess, right? So can I call this as suprapineal recess because it is located above the pineal recess? So this one is called as suprapineal recess. So this part over here is called as your suprapineal recess. So this is your pineal recess and above that you call it as a suprapineal recess, right? So this is one of the very important thing you need to know. Now here, where is this corpus callosum? So this particular structure over here is called as your corpus callosum. You see, this particular structure is called as your corpus callosum. If I ask you what are the structures that are in relation with corpus callosum, what will you tell? I have to tell that corpus callosum, the structures that are in relation with the corpus callosum are, one is what? One is your septum pellucidum, another one is the fornix, right? And right and left what you have? You have got the genu on one side and you have got the splenium on other side. And down here what do you have got? Down here you have got rostrum, right? Attached to the rostrum what do you have got? Attached to the rostrum you have got anterior commissure. So this commissure over here is called as your anterior commissure. Anterior commissure. Okay, this is called as your anterior commissure. And behind that, that one you call it as a posterior commissure. You see, this is your anterior commissure and this is your posterior commissure. Okay, so this is the important thing you need to know regarding the corpus callosum. You should know where this corpus callosum is located. You should know what are the structures that are located in between the corpus callosum. You should also know what are the structures that are located below the corpus callosum, and you should also know what are the structures are located in relation with this entire corpus callosum. So can I tell that in relation with the corpus callosum you have got the diencephalon, right? That is the cavity of the third ventricle. Now next important thing is that corpus callosum is also forming borders of 1 and 2 ventricles. Now whatever statement I have given you, I know you haven't understood this, right? If you understood it, that is well and good. But corpus callosum is forming the borders, right? It forms one border of the first and second ventricle. So for that I will draw another picture. Now this is from the medial side. I will draw from the base and let us see what are the structures that are located. Okay. So from the base, in the sense, this is your cerebral hemispheres. I am looking from the bottom to see the structures of this corpus callosum. Okay, right. Second important thing is that you might think that septum pellucidum is all the way attached here, but actually this is not how septum pellucidum is attached. From the side you can see that from the starting from the red point till the green point, everywhere the septum pellucidum is attached. Actually this is how it is attached. See here. See, let us say this is corpus callosum. Okay. This is your corpus callosum. Okay. So actually septum pellucidum is attached here. You are thinking that septum pellucidum is attached all over like this? No. Septum pellucidum is not attached all over like that. Septum pellucidum is attached in this way like this. You see this? This is how septum pellucidum is attached. Okay. You see the septum pellucidum is attached exactly in the center. It is not attached all the way from one point till another point. So it is exactly attached in the center. So this entirely is your septum pellucidum, which is attached exactly in the center. And below the septum pellucidum you have got bodies. These bodies are called as fornix. This is called as fornix. You see here also septum pellucidum. Below the septum pellucidum, this band is called as what? This band is called as fornix. Okay, this band is called as fornix. Right. Now next important thing. What is the next important thing is that, as I told you, I will draw the picture from the base. So from the base, this is how the picture looks. This is a picture from the base. Where is your corpus callosum over here? See, this is the exact location of your corpus callosum. This is your corpus callosum. Now what did I tell you? Attached to the center of the corpus callosum, what do you have? You have got a structure called as septum pellucidum, right? See, this is your septum pellucidum. And down here attached to septum pellucidum, what do you have? You see here? This is septum. This green one is septum pellucidum. Attached to septum pellucidum, what is this? This is called as your fornix, right? So attached to septum pellucidum, you have got such structures over here. These structures over here are nothing but called as your fornix. Okay, so let me draw this fornix little bit bigger. So this is your fornix. Okay, next important thing is that beneath the corpus callosum, what do you have? See, this is corpus callosum. Beneath the corpus callosum, I have got thalamus. Beneath the thalamus, I have got hypothalamus. Right? So beneath the corpus callosum, I have got thalamus and then hypothalamus. See here. Beneath the corpus callosum, I have got thalamus like this. right? Beneath the thalamus I have got what? Beneath the thalamus I have got hypothalamus. So these two are hypothalamus. Okay, so let me write down these structures. So this is your thalamus, and this is your hypothalamus, and this is your hypothalamus. Okay, so one you have got is a thalamus, another one you have got is a hypothalamus. Next important thing you have got over here is, see, this structure which you can see right now, which I am drawing right now, is nothing but called as your, right, you see this structure which I am drawing right now, see this structure whatever here I am drawing right now is called as your midbrain. So this particular structure is your midbrain. So what is the gap in between the midbrain? This gap in between the midbrain is nothing but called as your what? Cerebral aqueduct. So this is called as your cerebral aqueduct. Can anyone name what is the other name for the cerebral aqueduct? This is also called as aqueduct of Sylvius, right? Now very carefully look here, very carefully. Here you have got two important cavities. So before I draw two important cavities, you should know one very important thing, that let us say this is one ventricle. So at least I want you to attend my lecture on ventricles to understand this, okay? So this is a ventricle. So in this ventricle, let us say this is first ventricle, second, third, fourth, whatever it is, okay? This is a ventricle. Now within this ventricle, what is the thing which you have in the center? You have got the entire CSF. Remember one thing, surrounding these ventricles, the inner lining of the ventricles, you see you have got an epithelium like this, right? You see this epithelium? This is the, can I tell that this epithelium is lining your ventricles? And yes, this epithelium over here is called as your ependyma. Sometimes there can be tumor within this ependyma, and this tumor can grow in size, right? And this tumor is called as ependymoma. What this tumor is called? This tumor can be called as ependymoma. Okay, so these are called as ependymal cells. Now here also the same ependymal cells are located here. All of you just have a look. So all these cells which I am drawing are the ependymal cells. So if I am drawing the ependymal cells, it means this center cavity whatever is there here, you should call this as ventricles, right? Yes or no? Now where are 1 and 2 ventricles? See, this ventricle over is called as the first ventricle, this is called as the second ventricle, or you can call it as the right lateral ventricle, left lateral ventricle. And can I tell this is as the third ventricle, right? So where is third ventricle present? Third ventricle is present in between thalamus and hypothalamus. Here also you see thalamus, hypothalamus, and this is the third ventricle, right? So here also thalamus, hypothalamus, and third ventricle. And second important thing you are missing here. What is the second important thing? You see this is your first ventricle over here, right? This is your first ventricle. Here also you got as this is the first ventricle. And can I tell that this entire ventricle here, right? So this ventricle over here is your third ventricle. You see, this is your third ventricle. So can I tell now, I told you one statement before drawing this picture, that corpus callosum forms the roof of the first and second ventricle. So can I tell now that this is corpus callosum and this is the first ventricle and this is second ventricle. So this is called as the roof of the first and second ventricle. Can I call that corpus callosum is forming the roof of the first and second ventricle? Yes or no? By looking at this picture only. So regarding these borders and all, I have already recorded a detailed video there. There you watched. I am not going to explain the borders. I am just going to show you that through the pictures that how corpus callosum is present, where it is present, how it is related with the other structures. So here also you can see that corpus callosum, it forms one of the wall of right and left lateral ventricles, right and left lateral ventricles. So it forms the walls of the right and left lateral ventricles. And by the way here, not to forget that this particular thing over here is called as your septum pellucidum. okay, and these structures are called as your fornix. This structure is called as your fornix. So this is the important thing you need to know, okay. Now if I ask you the first ventricle roof or the lateral wall is formed by what? You see here by the picture itself, it is very clear that even the roof as well as the lateral wall is also formed by the corpus callosum on the right side. The roof and the lateral wall is formed by the corpus callosum on the left side. Now if I ask you the medial wall is formed by what? Septum pellucidum. If I ask you the floor is formed by what will you tell? The floor is formed by what? This fornix as well as the thalamus over here, right? Anyways, the detailed structures I have already discussed there, so there you will have a complete information over there. And what is this lining over here? This lining over here is nothing but called as your ependyma. And remember one very important thing, ependyma is having an epithelium called as simple cuboidal epithelium. What is the type of epithelium? That is your simple cuboidal epithelium. So that epithelium over here is called as your simple cuboidal epithelium, okay. So your ependyma is having an epithelium called simple cuboidal epithelium. That is what is having a simple cuboidal epithelium, right. So these are some of the very important things which you need to know, right. So these are some of the very important things which you need to know regarding the corpus callosum over here, right. Anyways, what we shall be doing is that, so this is corpus callosum, right. And the second important thing I will be discussing over here is, what I will be discussing is that I will stretch out the corpus callosum, okay. So what I am trying to tell you is that corpus callosum is one of the commissural fibers, one of the type of commissural fibers, okay. So what I am telling you is that, are there any other fibers that are attached to these corpus callosum? Yes, there are some fibers that are attached on the right and left of the corpus callosum. Let us say if this is corpus callosum, you know that in the, look at this picture here, you know that in this corpus callosum, this is called as a gyno of the corpus callosum, this is called as a splenium, and this is called as a body of the corpus callosum, right. Now if I want to show you that, I want to show you the gyno which is looking my side, splenium which is your side, and the body which is on the top. If I have to show you, how should I show? I have to lift all my fingers like this. When I lift, when I have straightened the corpus callosum, this becomes the what? This becomes the splenium, right. This entire thing becomes the body, and this becomes the, what is this? The gyno of the corpus callosum, right. So when I stretch it out, how does the picture look, and what are the fibers that are attached there? So just look at the picture now. Right. So this is the picture. Now what I am doing is that I am stretching the corpus callosum. See, I have stretched the corpus callosum. When I stretch the corpus callosum over here, tell me what is the first important part? What is the first part over here? This red color one. This is called as your gyno, right? So the first important part over here is called, not gyno. Before the gyno, what is the first important part? See, gyno is this red one. What I am asking you is, start from here. You see, start from this part like this. So if you start from this part, what is this blue color one? This blue color one is nothing but called as your rostrum, right? So the first important part over here is R. R stands for what? R stands for rostrum. So R stands for rostrum, okay. Next, after the rostrum, we have got the next important thing, that is called as your gyno, G for gyno. And next, the lengthy part is, right, that is what is called as your body. So this is called as your body, and the last part is called as splenium, which I will write it as S. So R stands for rostrum, G stands for gyno, B stands for body, and S here stands for splenium, right. So R stands for rostrum, and this is your gyno, and here you have got this entire part is your body, this entire part is your body, and finally this is your splenium. So these are the structures. Now how is this corpus callosum formed? By the way, you are telling me corpus callosum is a bundle of fibers that are connecting the right cerebral hemisphere with the left, right. If I have to show it to you, see, this is a structure, right? Now in this structure, can you see this center part? All of you see this center part over here. This center part is nothing but called as your corpus callosum. Now I am asking you, how is corpus callosum formed? You are just telling me it is a bundle of fibers. Yes, corpus callosum is a bundle of fibers. How to know that? If you very carefully look on the right half, you see many fibers here. You see on the left half also many fibers. Now we will draw them and I will tell you how corpus callosum is formed. But here you know one thing, that one is called as a rostrum. This is called as a rostrum, this is called as a genu, this is called as a body, and this is called as a splenium, right? The same picture is here. Now just look at the picture here. The picture is that, let us say, this is a frontal surface, right? Okay, let me write it as, this is a frontal pole. Now from the frontal pole, or I can also call it as orbital surface, right? So from the orbital surface, you see fibers that are coming down like this. Right. So you see from the orbital surface, you see that the fibers are coming down all the way like this, right? Now not only here, even on the opposite side also. I hope you're not just watching the video. I even want you to draw along with me, so that just by watching you don't get bored. You see these fibers which I am drawing right now, right? So these fibers, these bundle of fibers, whatever you can see, from where these bundle of fibers are arising, these bundle of commissural fibers, they are arising from the orbital surface. So what is happening? Just look here. Let us say this is the right half, this is the left half. These bundle of commissural fibers, they originate from the orbital surface, right? Now what is happening is that from this orbital surface, these bundle of fibers are coming like this, and finally all these bundle of fibers are joining together to form a compact structure. Okay, so it is very easy, very clearly understood, right? Let us say that this is a wire. Now what I am doing is that I'm completely separating the wire like this. You see, I'm separating the wire. When I'm separating the wire, you see all the wire filaments like this. So these wire filaments are nothing but your commissural fibers. So all these wire filaments are joining together and forming a compact thick bundle, right? I hope you understood. So let us say this. You see, bundle of fibers. Now here at one end they are separate, but as this bundle of fibers are approaching the center, you see they are completely joined together with a compact, and again they are separate like this, right? So this compact fibers, whatever are located in the center, is nothing but called as rostrum. You see now what is rostrum here? Rostrum is not just an individual unit, it is comprised of bundle of fibers, right? So bundle of fibers, I have put a tape around it. So what will happen? This bundle of fibers are together now. So that is what is called as your rostrum. Okay. So from where this bundle of fibers are arising, you should know that these are arising from the orbital surface. Orbital surface. In the same way, you see the next bundle of fibers like this. You see the next bundle of fibers like this. So these next bundle of fibers, right, what is happening? You see from the right side, all these bundle of fibers are coming like this. And what is happening when these bundle of fibers are coming on the right side like this? You see, these bundle of fibers are coming on the right side. They are joining together to form what? To form genu. And then they are going on to the opposite side. You know what these particular bundle of fibers are called as? These are called as forceps minor. So if I ask you forceps minor forms what will you tell? Will you tell it as rostrum or will you tell it as genu? You call it as genu. So these bundle of fibers are called as, these commissural fibers are called as forceps minor. So these commissural fibers which are forming the genu is called as what? Is called as your forceps minor. Now after these bundle of fibers, now let us see what are the bundle of fibers that are forming the body are called as. You see now, You see this bundle of fibers which I am drawing right now, right? So these bundle of fibers which are coming all the way like this, right? So these bundle of fibers are forming what? These bundle of fibers are nothing but they are forming your body. Okay, so these bundle of fibers over here are forming your body. So all of them together they will form this particular body over here. Okay, right. Now what is this structure over here called as? This structure over here is called as tapetum. Okay, so this is called as tapetum. What is your tapetum? Tapetum is nothing but bundle of commissural fibers that are joining together to form the body of corpus callosum in the center. They are fanning in, forming a structure and then fanning out. And the last important structure over here, what is this last important structure? That is your splenium. So how is your splenium formed? This is how your splenium is formed. Okay, so this particular structure over here is nothing but called as your splenium. Now tell me this thing, that the splenium on both the ends, right? The splenium on the right as well as on the left, right? So if you see here, the splenium on the right and left, right, it is formed by a bundle of fibers over here. You know what are these called as? These are called as forceps major. These are called as forceps major. So very important thing you need to understand here is that, from the orbital surface what fibers are coming, what commissural fibers are coming from the orbital surface. So from the orbital surface you see these commissural fibers which are coming here and they form what? Rostrum. Next, what is forceps minor? Commissural fibers which are forming the genu are called as forceps minor. What is tapetum? Commissural fibers which are forming the body are called as a tapetum. And what is forceps major? Commissural fibers which are forming the splenium are called as forceps major. Right. Now if someone asks you from where does this forceps minor start? Okay, so you have to tell that the forceps minor starts from the anterior part of the frontal lobe. So if I have to write it down, that this is a frontal lobe, right? So this forceps minor starts from, they arise from anterior part. They arise from anterior part of which lobe? They arise from the anterior part of the frontal lobe. Okay. Now if someone is asking you, let us say tapetum, right? From which surface how is tapetum formed? Right, so how is tapetum formed? Actually, how did you tell you about the forceps minors? The fibers of the forceps minors started all the way from the anterior part of the frontal lobe. They came in the center and formed the genu and again they fanned out. Right, now in the same way, when it comes to the tapetum, the fibers of this tapetum, right, the commissural fibers which are forming the tapetum, they start from the posterior part of the frontal lobe, posterior part of frontal lobe and parietal lobe individually. So posterior part of the frontal lobe respectively and parietal lobe. Okay, you see if this is a frontal lobe has got two surfaces. You see this one is the anterior part, this part in the half is called as a posterior part, and this is purely the parietal part. Yes or no? So parietal part. Now if I ask you from where does the forceps major fibers originate, what will you tell? You have to tell that it originates from the occipital and the temporal lobe. Occipital and temporal lobe. Okay, right. So once again, so what is the important thing here is that the center part, whatever you can see here, is nothing but called as your corpus callosum. Corpus callosum. Okay, so corpus callosum has got, R stands for what? Rostrum. It has got genu, it has got body, it has got splenium. Right, so fibers which form the commissural fibers which form the rostrum are originating from where? They are originating from the orbital surface of the frontal lobe, right? Orbital surface of which lobe? Orbital surface of the frontal lobe. From there, these commissural fibers are originating and forming the rostrum. Next, forceps minor. Forceps minor is formed by what? It is formed by the commissural fibers. It is formed by the commissural fibers arising from which part of the cerebral cortex? It is arising from the anterior part of the frontal lobe. From there the fibers will start coming and form the genome. Next, fibers from the posterior part. Fibers matlab commissural fibers. Commissural fibers from the posterior part of the frontal lobe and parietal lobe, they join together and form what? They form the body, right? So these fibers collectively you called as tapetum. Next, fibers from the occipital as well as the temporal lobe join together to form what? Splenium, right? So these fibers are called as what? These fibers are nothing but called as your forceps major. Okay. So what are the things we have discussed so far? So far whatever we discussed is corpus callosum. We discussed what are the structures that are in relation with the corpus callosum, and we also discussed what are the different parts of corpus callosum and what are the fibers that are forming the corpus callosum and from where these fibers are coming and forming your corpus callosum. So these are the things which we have discussed in case of corpus callosum. Now, second important thing is that we move on to the second important thing, that is anterior commissure. I have already shown you where is your anterior commissure. See, this part is your anterior commissure. Now, what is this anterior commissure doing? Anterior commissure will join the rhinencephalon. Previous lectures, please watch those previous lectures. In the previous lectures, I have told you what are the different components of rhinencephalon. Okay. Now, please watch those lectures. So, anterior commissure, where is this anterior commissure? See, this part over here is your anterior commissure. So, what is this anterior commissure connecting? It connects some structures in the right cerebral hemisphere and also the left cerebral hemisphere. It connects both the structures. So, what are the structures it is connecting? We will write it down. But regarding the diagram, I have specifically spoken about this diagram. I have drawn this diagram in specific, in detail in the previous lecture. So, it would take a lot of time if I draw now. So, watch those lectures, but now what I will do is that I will write down the names. I will write down just the names, okay. Now, the first important structure which is located in whatever name I am writing here, this is located both in the right as well as the left cerebral hemisphere, okay. So, the first important structure over here is olfactory bulb. Olfactory bulb. Now, beneath the olfactory bulb, if you know the picture right now, you will have an answer, that is olfactory tract. Olfactory tract, and beneath the olfactory tract you have got pre-piriform area. Pre-piriform area. After pre-piriform area you have got piriform area. Piriform area, okay. And you even need to know one very important thing, that this piriform area is divided into some more areas. For example, one is called as anterior perforated substance. Anterior perforated substance, and second important part is anterior part of parahippocampal gyrus. Anterior part of parahippocampal gyrus, and third important thing is uncus, right, and the last important thing is amygdaloid body. Amygdaloid body, okay. Next, after that, the fifth important thing over here is hippocampal formation. I will talk about that. I will also draw. Why I will draw? Because you see hippocampal commissure is present. Hippocampal commissure will attach to the hippocampal formation. So I have to draw it. Hippocampal formation. Sixth important thing is paraterminal gyrus. Terminal gyrus. Seventh and eighth. Seventh important thing is your fornix. You know what is fornix now, right? And next, eighth important thing is habenular nuclei. You have heard of this word somewhere, right? What is the word you have heard? You heard that there is something called habenular commissure. You know what habenular commissure will do? See, this is your habenular nuclei. This is your habenular nuclei. One habenular nuclei is located on the right cerebral hemisphere. Another habenular nuclei is located on the left cerebral hemisphere. Now, attached to both of them, you have got these fibers. This is called as habenular commissure. Okay? Clear all of you, right? Now, important thing I am going to tell you is that olfactory bulb, olfactory tract, pre-piriform area, piriform area. hippocampal formation, paraterminal gyrus, fornix and habenular nuclei, they are also located on the right and left both the sides. So I have to connect both the sides then, right? So for connecting both the sides, I need a commissure called as anterior commissure. And by the way, all these 8 structures whatever I have told, together you call them as a rhinencephalon. Okay, all these structures together you call them as rhinencephalon. Okay, so all these structures together you called as rhinencephalon. So can I tell like this, the structures of rhinencephalon on the right cerebral hemisphere is connected with the structures of the rhinencephalon on left cerebral hemisphere with the help of the anterior commissure, right? Second important thing is insula. All of you know what is insula, right? So insula on the right and left is connected with the help of the anterior commissure. So anterior commissure is connecting 2 important things. One is rhinencephalon, and all these are the 8 parts of rhinencephalon. And next important thing is insula. Okay, these are the important structures, guys. So this is all you see, these fibers which you can see over here, right? This is called as forceps minor. Where is this forceps minor located? In the frontal lobe, right? So this is forceps minor. Now you understood what are these fibers over here, right? What are the fibers that are forming the R, G, right? And next it is B as well as S. Now what we shall discuss is that we shall discuss what are the fibers, right? What are the fibers that form the commissure of the fornix or the hippocampal commissure, right? So before that, this is all the things which you need to know regarding the corpus callosum and anterior commissure. So thank you so much for watching my video. Goodbye.